Election Day 2021 is less than a week away. In the political dictionary, we're in what's known as an off year, in between presidential and midterm elections. But it's still a big day for many state and local races. If you've been watching our coverage, you'll know Virginia's race for governor is one of the most hotly contested this year. The race between Democrat Terry McAuliffe and Republican Glenn Youngkin is being looked at as a potential indicator of where the country is headed. More than 700,000 voters in Virginia have already cast their ballots. It's estimated that Democrats lead by about 200,000 votes so far. The other gubernatorial race this year is in New Jersey. A new Monmouth University poll shows 50% of registered voters back incumbent Democratic Governor Phil Murphy, while 39% support Republican Jack Ciattarelli. But those are not the only contests. CBS News political reporter Adam Brewster joins me now with the latest on other races across the country. Hi there, Adam. Good to talk to you again. All right, so a lot of ground to cover here. Let's start in Buffalo. The incumbent in Buffalo was defeated by a Democratic socialist in the primaries, but now he's running a fairly successful write-in campaign. So who seems to be leading there?
Well, Elaine, we got some new polling data out of Buffalo this morning that showed Byron Brown, the incumbent mayor, with about a 16-point lead over India Walton, who defeated him during the Democratic primary in June. Now, that June race was a relatively low turnout race, about 20,000 votes cast. India Walton beat Byron Brown by about 1,000 votes, so it was a very narrow margin, and Brown was accused of just not taking the race seriously and trying to rely on name ID. He's been the mayor of Buffalo for many, many years now, and that's one of the reasons why he's able to run a successful write-in campaign. Those are very difficult campaigns to run. It takes a lot of resources and a lot of just name recognition. Part of that comes from having been mayor of the city for more than a decade. Now, Walton has said that, she is someone who will bring a change to Buffalo. They had a debate this morning. She said that she is not someone who wants to be a career politician. She said she'll be around for 4 to 8 years, not 12 to 16, as Byron Brown has been around that long. And, says her background, as a teacher, as an outsider, gives her, the best position to lead Buffalo. But Brown has said he has done a good job. He has brought economic development to the city, and he has the leadership and the steady hand to sort of guide it forward. And we'll learn soon whether he's going to be able to keep his seat, but certainly quite a twist after Brown was, upset in very surprising fashion in June. Now, Walton has, she's got the Democratic nomination, has the support from some statewide Democrats, including Senators Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. We'll see if that helps her out on Tuesday.
It'll be fascinating to watch that race. Well, staying in New York City is electing a new mayor, too, and it's almost certain Democrat Eric Adams will win, but things still got heated at a debate last night. What happened?
Well, this is sort of a replay of the first debate, perhaps even a little more heated between Eric Adams and Republican Curtis Sliwa. Sliwa is someone who is, significantly behind Adams, not just in the polls, but from a sheer statistical standpoint. There's about 3 million more Democrats in New York than Republicans. It would be to call it a monumental upset is probably an understatement if Curtis Sliwa were to defeat Eric Adams. Much of the drama in this race happened in June during the Democratic primary when Adams prevailed from that crowded field of Democrats. And he has been, over the summer and in these months, he has been campaigning a little bit, saying, you don't win baseball games in the 8th inning, but sort of acting as though he's the incumbent mayor. Sliwa went up there last night to, perhaps try to shine some light on things people hadn't heard about Adams. He challenged him, over recently meeting with gang members, something Adams says he's done to, figure out a way to quell violence, if he goes on to win the election and become mayor, but again, barring something totally shocking, we can expect to see Eric Adams be the next mayor of New York City.
All right, let's head next to Boston. Boston is making history regardless of who wins the mayoral race next week. For the first time, the city will elect a woman of color. So who are the two city councilors in this race, and how do they differ on the issues?
Right, so you've got Michelle Wu and Anissa Saibi George. They won. They were the top 2 vote getters in the September winnowing primary, which featured several candidates, and they advanced to this November election. Now, Michelle Wu has sort of courted the progressive, the establishment, I don't want to say the establishment progressive, but the well-known progressive candidates in Massachusetts. Elizabeth Warren, Ed Markey, Ayanna Pressley have all thrown their support behind her. She's thrown out ideas such as, making the transit system in Boston, to be free of a fare. Anissa Sahibi-George has, support from some labor unions. She's taken some more, moderate approaches. They have some differing views in terms of, how the police budget should be used and whether there need to be any trims there, how much new affordable housing should be set aside in Boston. Polling has shown Michelle Wu with about a 30-point lead heading into Election Day. That was a poll from Suffolk University from earlier this month. But regardless of which candidate wins, it'll be the first time Boston elects a female mayor. The current acting mayor, Kim Janey, of course, took over when Marty Walsh, who was Boston's mayor, went on to become a labor secretary in Joe Biden's administration.
Yeah, I watched the first debate between the two candidates in the Boston mayoral race, moderated by WBZ's John Keller, and it was striking to me how the decibel level for that one, Adam, was quite a contrast from what we've heard in other debates. But it was definitely, there were some pointed remarks, but really fascinating to see that dynamic between those two candidates. Finally, Adam, there is a wide field of 17 candidates in the race for Minneapolis mayor. Does incumbent Mayor Jacob Frey face any tough challenges?
Well, he is facing some challenges from, people like community activist Sheila Najad, former state lawmaker Kate Knuth. Frey has been sort of running on his record of handling the pandemic and his response to the killing of George Floyd and the racial justice protests that stemmed from that in Minneapolis, which was, sort of the center of the racial justice protests that we saw in the summer of 2020. Now, his challengers have pushed him to say, have you done enough to reform the culture within the Minneapolis Police Department, and have tried to make that sort of one of the big issues for voters to think about when they go in to vote for Jacob Frey. Another wrinkle in this race is voters are also being asked if they want to, rather than having the Minneapolis Police Department, take that department and turn it into a Department of Public Health. Now, Frey has said that is not something that he supports. That is something that Najad and Kate Knuth, the two of his opponents that I mentioned, they do back that. But that is an interesting factor in this race. It's also a race that will be decided using ranked choice voting. We talked about that a lot, Elaine, heading into the New York City mayoral election. Minneapolis has used this for municipal elections for several years. And the way that works, to remind some of our viewers, is you can vote for multiple candidates. The candidates who received the fewest votes are eliminated. If they voted for a second or third choice, those votes are redistributed, until someone has a majority of the votes. So that is another sort of interesting wrinkle in that race to see if, enough people support Jacob Frey for another term, or whether his challengers can sort of cobble together enough votes and sort of form a coalition to perhaps put one of them over the top.
All right, a lot to watch on election night. Adam Brewster. Adam, thanks as always. We really appreciate it.